Hi there, welcome to Create with Copper. Today I've got some gorgeous wirework earrings to show you. But don't forget, if you want to see more techniques and tutorials for making jewellery, to hit that subscribe button. Now let's do some wirework. Now I just got these little chrysocolla beads and I just had to do something with them straight away. But the great thing about these earrings is that you could resize them for larger beads. So the materials you need for this project are 0.8mm diameter copper wire, which is 20 gauge, and 0.4mm diameter copper wire, which is 26 gauge. Your beads, mine are 4mm, some jump rings and some ear hooks. And the tools needed are your wire cutters, round nose pliers, flat nose pliers and awl, and then optional are your jeweller's torch and tweezers. For each earring I'm using 2 pieces of the 0.8mm diameter wire, which are 18cm long, and I'm going to weave with 1 metre of the 0.4mm wire. Now, leaving about 15cm tail on the end of that weaving wire, I'm going to take it just off centre around one of those frame wires once. Then I'll add in the other frame wire and I want to wrap the two together twice. I'm then going to take that weaving wire through the middle of those 2 wires and wrap the bottom wire twice. I'm then back up to the top and wrapping both wires twice. Now I just want enough of this weave to fit halfway around the bead. And once I've got that, I'm going to bend the wires. I can use my round nose pliers to help. And I want to be able to fit that bead into that curve. I'm then going to thread on the bead, taking both ends of the weaving wire through in opposite directions. And pull those weaving wires to get the bead into place. And then I'm going to continue the wrap on both sides. This will fix the bead into place, and I want to get those wires woven up to the point where they can almost meet. So I'm going to take the frame wires and curve them a little bit further around the bead. And then curve them back up again so they're running parallel. And at this point I want the 4 wires to be sitting side by side. The bead's now secure, and because we're making earrings we obviously need 2 of these. It's a good idea to start the other earring now to make sure that the 2 match up. Before I start weaving the main part of the earring, I want to finish off the side with the tail end of that weaving wire. I've got 1 wrap around the 2 wires, so I'm going to finish the second wrap off and then put a single wrap on there. That'll just fill in the gap that will otherwise be there and help lock that into place. Then on the other side I'm also going to complete the 2 wraps over 2 wires and take the weaving wire through between them. That gets me to where I want to add a wire. Now for this wire I've balled the end. If you want to find out more about doing this, I've got a tutorial on balling your own head pins. Or you could use a ready-made head pin or just create a small loop on the end of the wire. And I'm just going to add that into the middle of the wires so that ball is sitting above the bead. And then I'm going to weave over 2 wires, so the second wire down and that new wire. Take that weaving wire through to the back and then back up and between the top 2 wires again. I'm then going to go over the same 2 wires again, but this time I'll come up between the second and third wires so between the two wires that I've just wrapped. And I'll continue wrapping over two wires twice and stepping down one wire at a time. And once I've wrapped over the bottom two wires, I'll take the weaving wire up between them and then start wrapping back upwards in the same way. So now I've woven back up to the top and I've made a triangle. You might find the wires aren't quite sitting side by side, so what I do is just gently pinch over the whole weave with my flat nose pliers. That should settle those base wires. I can then take the weaving wire up between the top two wires and start my next triangle. And I'm going to weave 3.5 of these triangles. Now once I've done those 3.5 triangles, I'm going to continue weaving on only the middle 3 wires. So I want to take the wire away from the outside. This looks like the start of another bit of the triangle weave, but it will actually be a different weave. So I'll just go over the second and third wires twice. And then I'm going to go 3 times around that middle wire. Just make sure all those wires are settled and then I can continue that weave shortly. But first I'm going to move those outside 2 wires out of the way, and I'm just going to curve them right the way round. I'll bend them inwards and then create a really small loop so they're facing out. I'm going to leave them there for a second just to help with grip. And for the weave on the middle 2 wires, I've got those 3 wraps on the middle wire, so I'm now going to take 2 wraps over the bottom 2 wires. I'm then going to wrap that middle wire 3 times again. And then take 2 wraps over the top 2 wires. Then I'll do 3 wraps on the middle wire again. I'll continue this weave for a few repetitions. For the next stage I'm going to be covering over where those outside wires are. So now I'm going to just trim off the excess of those. I'll just go in where the loop is and trim them there. Squeeze it with my flat nose pliers. And most of the weaving's complete. And don't forget to get your second earring up to the same point. I'm now ready to add my jump ring, but first I'm going to shape it into a bit more of a D shape, just by using my flat nose pliers and squeezing gently one side. These are closed jump rings, but you could do the same with open jump rings with care. Just squeeze where the opening is. Then I'll add that onto my earring, threading the weaving wire through and the 3 base wires. And then positioning that jump ring just above the ends of the 2 outer wires, I want to bend the 3 remaining wires over to the back. And pinch that tight. I then want to carefully bend those base wires outwards. Keep hold of them where the jump ring is so they don't move too much. And now we're getting towards the finishing stages of the earring. It's worth doing each of these steps on both earrings at the same time just to make sure that they match. And now we're going to bend those wires forwards and then wrap them over the front of the earring. Now I want the weave on those 3 wires to continue to the edge of the earring, so I'm just going to carry on with that weave. And I'm also going to take the opportunity to lock it all together by taking the weaving wire through to the back. To do this, I'm going to use my awl to make a space between the wires, and then take that weaving wire through. Then do the same in a nearby space at the back to make a little stitch, and take the weaving wire back through to the front to continue the weave. I'll finish that weave with the 3 wraps on the centre wire, and then I can trim off the excess weaving wire. I'm then going to trim that bottom base wire and make a small loop. So it's just sitting on the edge of the earring. I then want to bend the other 2 wires into place. And that lower wire I'm going to take right down so it can be fixed in place with the tail end of the weaving wire. And the upper wire I'll curve a little bit further outwards, but I'm going to cross that over that bottom wire. It's worth taking your time and using your pliers to get the shape that you want for those wires. And then holding the 2 wires to keep them steady, I'm going to take that top wire right the way round the other wire to create a small loop on the end and fix it in place. I can then trim the end of that wire and just close that loop. I'm then going to make a small loop on the end of the final wire, and I want this to sit at the side of the weave. Trim the end and close that loop. I'm then going to take the tail of the weaving wire through that loop, wrap it a couple of times, and then take the weaving wire back through the main body of the earring to fix it in place, making a space with the awl as before. Wrap the weaving wire into the earring a couple of times and then trim. And finally, I'm just going to shape the earring a little bit, just by curving it gently outwards. And of course you'll have the other earring to match. I've decided to patina these, so I'm going to do that first, and then I just need to attach the ear hooks. And my earrings are finished. If you enjoyed the video, please press the like button below. Don't forget you could subscribe to my channel and head over to my website for more hints, tips and projects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.